Well, welcome back into Keys of the Game alongside Bree Hentschel. I'm Taylor Farmer here in the TCI studio to break down another Clemson football matchup. Now, last weekend, Clemson lost to NC State. They've now lost 2 of their 4 ball games, and the number 3 Clemson Tigers have dropped to number 25. But they will face Boston College this weekend, and I think that this game could very well be decided on how the Tigers handle Boston College's offensive line down 2 defensive linemen for Clemson. Now, Brian Brzee is out with a season-ending injury and ACL tear, while defensive tackle Tyler Davis is also out 7 to 8 weeks with a bicep tear. 2 big losses for Clemson's defense, as they are the heart and soul of this Clemson defense, but so is James Skalski, who was also banged up last weekend versus NC State. A lot of injuries we saw in that ball game. But luckily for Clemson, Dabo has said that Skalski should be back for this weekend's game, which, to put it in perspective a little bit, he leads the team with 30 tackles. Definitely someone that they need out there and someone that they need to keep healthy. But another leader that Clemson's defense has is Balen Spector. He was ACC Linebacker of the Week. He had 19 tackles, a career best in the game last weekend, which is also the most ever under Coach Sweeney's era. And now Clemson came into this season. Their defense was stacked to the brim with talent. They returned 9 of their 11 defensive starters, which again is the most ever in the Dabo Sweeney era. And Clemson, I would say that through these 4 ball games, Clemson's defense is the reason why they have won 2 ball games, and quite possibly the only reason that they are still ranked in the top 25. I think going to Boston College's offense, we have to talk about their offensive line. They average 6'4", 311 pounds.
Wow.
So definitely big up there.
Yes.
But Coach Sweeney says that they're a very cohesive group, a veteran group that will present a big challenge for Clemson this weekend. To put that in perspective a little bit, let me read you a few of these things. To start with, left tackle Tyler Vrabel, all ACC honorable mention each of the last 2 seasons, and son of Tennessee Titans head coach Mike Vrabel. Left guard Zion Johnson, 3rd team all ACC in 2020, 2nd team in 2019, and preseason All-American. Center Alec Lindstrom, 1st team all ACC in 2020, 3rd team in 2019, preseason All-American, and younger brother of Atlanta Falcons lineman Chris Lindstrom. While right tackle Ben Petrula, 2nd team All-ACC the past 2 years.
Wow.
So big guys up there who are also super talented. You can be big and not talented, but they have big and talented. But entering the Missouri game last weekend, which Boston College won, as we were talking about earlier, they're 4-0 so far this season. They protected the quarterbacks very well. The veteran group provided Phil Jerkovic and Dennis Grossel with remarkably clean pockets. However, Missouri did test the line, bringing heavy, exotic blitzes, and they especially blitzed their linebackers up the middle through the A-gaps. Blitzes like these are challenging for a quarterback like Grossel, who is a bit shorter. He needs more time in the middle just to stay in the pocket a little longer, read the defense better. But unfortunately, the blitzes were getting to Boston College last weekend, which is what Clemson's going to want to do this weekend. So hopefully that kind of stays the same in Clemson's favor. But they caused a lot of sacks last weekend to Grossel and just inaccurate throws from him. But additionally, it's somewhat more problematic for the running backs if they're kept into pass protect. But luckily, the Eagles' improved running game should help Boston College possibly score some touchdowns, but they're going to have to capitalize on every opportunity that they get. As far as Clemson's offense versus Boston College's defense, what do you think we'll see there?
Before we even start, I think I want to give a lot of credit to their new head coach, Jeff Hafley. I think he's really turned around that Boston College program, and I think they have a great thing going for them. It's obvious because they're heading into this season 4-0, and I think it's the first time in almost 15 years. But I will say, I think as far as the Boston College team, I think their defense is where they're a little bit of a weak link. And in saying that, Boston College has to find more ways to get pressure on the quarterback. I'm going to read a couple things off, and that would be opposing quarterbacks have dropped back to pass 136 times. And the Eagles have only generated pressure on 39 of those dropbacks, which means that's just under 30%. So if you paid close attention to the last few games, you probably noticed that BC only rushes 3 or 4 defensive linemen. In fact, Boston College has only blitzed 48 times this season, around 35% of dropbacks. I think the easiest scenario would be if the Eagles could start consistently getting to the quarterback. For us, that would be DJ Uiagalelei. Some key players for Boston College's defense, I think, are going to end up being Marcus Valdez, Brandon Barlow, and Sheeta Sila. Ultimately, I think Sila will be the guy to keep an eye on against the Tigers. His strength and athleticism has really been a strong point for this Boston College defense, and I think that's where the critical factor towards pressuring Uiagalelei will come from. So it's all going to come down to whether the Tigers can keep their championship quality defense up to par, and let's just hope our offense gets to scoring those touchdowns like they've lacked in the past couple weeks. So turning it over to the Clemson offense, I think that there's a lot to say. I know everyone's question right now is, what is the specific problem for the Clemson offense? And honestly, I don't think anyone can give a specific answer. I think we see DJ Uiagalelei having a lack of confidence in the pocket, and he's taking too long to make decisions. Does that come from his lack of confidence in his offensive linemen? Then again, I think the wide receivers need to do a better job at getting open. Does that point fingers towards the offensive coordinator, Tony Elliott, and making the schemes better for his offensive guys? I don't know. I don't think anyone is. So I think where we're at now with Clemson is through the first month of the season, they rank last in the ACC, a conference it has dominated in as many years as I can remember, in points per game, yards per game, and yards per play. They now rank 115th nationally. And as I said, last in the ACC, 6.5% behind the next worst team, Florida State. So, again, not pointing fingers because everyone on that offensive side really does share the blame. There's no one to a point for that. We did hear from tight end Davis Allen earlier this week, and he said he thinks all of these problems are tiny, minuscule, there we go, things that he thinks are going to be fixed. And will we see that this game? I hope so. I think they can do it. We're just going to have to wait and see.
Yes, we will have to find out. Definitely some good takeaways from both sides of the ball. Boston College 4-0 will definitely present a big test to Clemson this weekend. Can Clemson bounce back from the loss against Georgia earlier in the season and now NC State? Nolan Turner also stated in interviews this week that they can't let this NC State game beat them twice, which means they have to bounce back. They have to go 1-0 this weekend. They're just focused on this weekend as if this is the only game of the season. So a big test for Clemson to bounce back, a big test for Boston College.
They're both going to be going at it.
Yeah, to keep being undefeated. We'll see what happens. It'll be a good one to watch this weekend. The Tigers will kick off at 7:30 in Death Valley against Boston College here in the TCI studio alongside Bree Hentschel and Taylor Farmer.